Now I'm very excited to welcome back a red hot capper in Shawn Knoche. You can follow Shawn at TheGreatKnoche on X. Shawn, the madness is here. We are back. Our yearly Sunday night episode, my man. How the heck you doing?
Doing well, Kiev. Thank you. I think this is the fourth year we've been doing this now and getting that quick first look in, early bets, talking about some games. Had a great conference tournament final weekend here. I know you did too. We rolled off 17-5 Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So real nice way to end the college basketball season. Started off rough, 5-33 to start, and we ended up the year plus 25 units, betting 1, 2, and 3 unit bets. So worked out okay, and we're hot going into the tournament and looking forward to some great tournament action.
Always love being red hot, my man. And that's great because I'm on a 14-2, just low and lost today with Michigan. And but that's all right. Let's keep this heat up. And obviously, Shawn all year did a great job in college basketball, and it's great to see. But Shawn's biggest passion is baseball, and you're getting all ready for that, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of start my baseball look-ins as people start going in the winter meetings and things start moving around. Start betting a couple futures here and there, and then my actual background's in fantasy baseball, which I've been doing a whole bunch of drafts since about the middle of January, just starting to wrap those up. And that really gives me a lot of lead into players, statistics, who's getting at bats, where they're going, and taking those numbers into the actual individual game day betting. We've had a lot of success at a 100-unit season on the books in the COVID year, and we've been up every single year betting MLB tracked since 2019. So definitely my best sport, definitely my passion, and looking forward to getting involved. I'll give you guys a free future right now. I have the Baltimore Orioles to win the AL East, to win the AL, and to win the World Series at current numbers. So that's my long shot play that I stuck little dollars on everywhere, and go Orioles.
It looks like the same one as Will gave out last night. So last
Was
week.
it really?
It sure was. So I guess you're not the only one who loves that, but that's okay. That's okay. It's good to get that extra backing, and it's more trustworthy now for me. Well, let's talk some college basketball. Let's start with this bracket that just came out an hour or so ago. So I got to ask always, who got screwed from making the tournament?
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think anybody got screwed from making the tournament this year. If you go in and you look at the teams with the highest ratings in KenPom and Haslametrics and the teams that are right below it, right? They're 17-16, 18-15, 18-14 SEC and Big Ten teams. And there's a lot of good teams in both of those conferences, right? You start looking down a little bit further to teams with a little bit better win-loss records. San Diego State and New Mexico, 23-10, 23-11. Those teams, maybe just from a win-loss standpoint, I think could make a case. But, when they put in Texas, 18-14, lost in the first round of the SEC tournament, and you put in Miami of Ohio, and I get it, their only loss was in the conference tournament. They still didn't beat anybody all year long of any value. So, I don't think there's anybody on the outside looking in that should have said, hey, I should absolutely be in there. I don't think any of these teams made a case. I think the closest was San Diego State, but they lost like 4 or 5 in Mountain West coming down the stretch, which really, got them in the end, even though they made the tournament championship game. So I don't think anybody can make a case I should have been in over this team, but I can make a case the other way that these two teams don't deserve, even though I don't know who to put in their place.
It's funny. So first of all, I want to kind of, like you said, put the caveat out there that nobody got screwed because the tournament's this big. I mean, if it was in college format, these teams wouldn't even be sniffing a top 12 of getting in, right? So it's like you don't get screwed like that. But there are teams I would have taken out and put in a few other teams. Like I really think that, when they say this team we want to put the best teams in, that's not necessarily true, because I think there's some teams that are playing better than other teams that made it. For example, I would take Oklahoma. I'd bet them in a heartbeat over Texas again. We just bet them last week and crushed them. It was easy. Florida State, they gave Duke the fits, and I was all over Florida State, and shit, they almost cashed that massive plus 2,400 money line sprinkle. Florida State's been red hot. I would take Florida State ahead of SMU any day right now in a bet, but but so the problem is you start out bad. That's what they're counting. They're counting the full body of work, right? I mean, even Cincinnati, I think, has some of those massive wins against Kansas, Iowa State, and BYU, all top 20 teams, Um, at the same time, but what you say, it's like none of them deserve it because they're not, it's not like they have 5 losses either. But Miami, Ohio, I think they should have went in, and I think they did a good job in putting them where they're supposed to be in the playing game, because even though you played shit, it's not their fault that some teams won't play them when they do try to schedule. Teams don't want to play them. It's like playing James Madison in football. It's like, what's that going to get you? That you're not going to be rewarded for a win. And so you go undefeated, even though you're playing 200, 300 teams, it's enough to get in the dance. But is it enough? I mean, would you bet against them? Yeah. If the line, they're going to get massive dogs, sure, I would. But I think there's a most deserving part that we got to always remember, Shawn.
Absolutely. But, if you start looking at that and you start looking at the records and who got to play who, and Stephen F. Austin goes 28-5 or 29-5, right? Shouldn't they be in? I mean, that's how I look at it. Neither of those teams played anybody worthwhile. Stephen F. Austin has the better win, and they're not in the tournament. So, not saying they should be, by the way.
Who did Stephen F. Austin beat again?
McNeese in conference is their only decent win.
Okay, well, the Akron win I think goes a little bit of a way too, so it's really close, splitting hairs there. But yeah, it was some fun conference tournaments this weekend. I feel like Michigan, after they beat us, feel like they just wanted revenge. They got that last three, and they don't even show up today against Purdue. They literally did not show up today. It's like, dude, thanks for taking Wisconsin. Wisconsin might have even showed up against Purdue and took them out. That was kind of annoying. But otherwise, I'm starting to feel that a lot of these tournaments, or a lot of these teams, have that star freshman, or that star lottery pick. There's a lot of them. And that's why you see so many NBA teams tanking, like a Mikael Brown for Louisville that's going to be back, like a Keaton Wagler from Illinois, like we saw Darius Acuff pretty much win the SEC tournament himself. It was Darius Acuff winning the tournament. It wasn't the rest of the team. It was him.
Or a star 3 freshman in Arizona with Peel and I can't pronounce his name, Karchenikov and Braden Berries. I mean, they've got 3 freshmen starting in Arizona that are leading the way for them too. So, I mean,
Arizona's loaded, man. I mean, Arizona's probably my favorite team. They're just we'll get to that question. Let's talk about some of these bracket games then. What kind of games are out there that you like to play?
Well, you've got your traditional brackets, obviously, that everybody knows about, but the 2 things we've gotten into, one I kind of dragged you into, and one you kind of dragged me into, the Survivor on the pick a team every day has turned out to be a whole lot of fun. Got to find a winner each day of the bracket: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday opening round, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes you cross over on the Elite 8 games where you can pick 2 of the 4 games, but if you do that on one side of the bracket, you're killing it. So, those have been a lot of fun. But the most fun I have, and we talk about this every year, but there's new listeners every year, right? It's a Calcutta that I've been doing for 8-9 years now. And it's an auction, right? You come in with a group of guys and you're a team, and there's other teams in the building, and you can buy any team on the bracket that you want. 16 and 15 seeds get a 0.5% of the pool against the spread if they're the best 16 or 15 against the spread, and everything else is based on wins. You get 1% of the total pot at the end of the Calcutta. If you get a first round win, 2.5 if they get it to the Sweet 16, 4.5 if they make it to the Elite 8, and I think it's 7, 12, and 19% of the pot if you pick the actual winner, and it's the team that you bought at the end. So we have a blast doing it. Bunch of guys come to our auction. If they can't make it, guys like you chip in some cash to our conglomerate and give us a little bit of input of who you'd like to see us buy. But it gives us something to cheer for, and for people that want something. This isn't a super high reward setting, right? If you chip in $100, you're probably getting back somewhere between 50 and 150, right? It's not a big win-loss thing because you're going to buy teams that are going to win games here and there. Really, to make the most money, you got to make sure you have the person or the team that wins the whole thing. So who do you think can win it is the question that we got to ask ourselves going into the Calcutta if we actually want to make a little bit of money. But it's more for fun than anything. It gives us a rooting interest on a bunch of games where we didn't pick a spread, didn't pick a total. Just, hey, I've got that team to move on to get an extra $42 in my pocket, right?
Sure.
And whether you know about the spread or not, you don't care. You just want them to win the game. So it's a blast. It makes a lot of games a lot more interesting and a lot of bragging rights with some other buddies of mine too. So if you've never done a Calcutta and you can get in one or get a group of 10 guys, even if you don't have a big conglomerate like we do, get 10 buddies and start one and see what happens and see how much fun it is. And if you want information on that, shoot me a message on Twitter. I'll break it down for you.
I think the bidding part is fun, getting all together and talking about that. And I unfortunately live away from you, but you always text me and I try to participate a little bit. And that's it's like a fantasy football draft in a way. You know, you guys can have a ton of fun doing that. And a lot of people meet up in Vegas for that or other bars and things like that. So I agree. That's an amazing one. And I love the Survivor. You can do by day or by round even. So you can adjust Survivor. You can also do a loser survivor. You can find those too. You can pick the losers and see how far you go with that. Pick 'em contests, like they always have ATS contests. And I love the multiply the seed contest in your bracket. That's a fun one because
those are fun.
You're actually multiplying the seed, picking upsets. You're rewarded a lot more for. So even if you get let's just say you get a 10 seed like a UCF in the Final Four, you're probably going to win without even picking like Duke to be the champion if they win it, right? Or Arizona or whatever side that they're away from for UCF. So just something like that is a ton of fun as well. And I always try to find those. Here at the Odds Breakers, we are doing our $500 giveaway one, but we're always going to do that one. And our Survivor, like Shawn mentioned. So please check out the oddsbreakers.com and get in our Survivor as well as our free $500 giveaway contest. Let's talk some quadrants, my friend.
Yeah.
What do you think's the hardest quadrant, Shawn?
Well, I think it's the South, and I think it's the South by a long ways.
Ooh.
Yeah. So hear me out. So as I look at this whole thing, I think there's 6 teams that realistically can win the tournament, right? It's the 4 number ones, it's Houston, and it's Iowa State. Those are the 6 teams that I look at and go, okay, those are the teams that got everything I think it takes to get there and get it done, and go through the gauntlet. But when you look at Ken Palm and Haslametrics and you look at the groupings that are in that bracket, with Illinois, Houston, Nebraska, and then Vanderbilt getting a 5 seed. They're number 12 on Ken Palm. They just handed Florida their lunch 2 days ago and are going to see them in the Sweet 16 if they get there. I think any of those 5 teams could come out of the South. I think they all play a real interesting style of basketball, right? You got 4 up-tempo teams, and you got Houston who likes to bang a little bit more, but any of those guys can come out of there. Nebraska would probably be my least favorite of that bunch, but I think the South is the toughest by far.
Oh wow, I don't. I think that's funny. I have a complete disagreement with you on that because here's the thing: Houston did get the home, right? So that's what's good for them. They're gonna. I mean, but that you can almost argue that's easy for a 2 seed and harder for Florida. Yeah, I find it very funny that they put Vanderbilt and Florida in the same bracket and UConn and St. John's in the same bracket too. It's kind of like those little revenge for the final game situation here, or sorry, the tournament situation, the SEC and the Big 12, Big East tournament. But I just think that Florida is the most flimsy 1 seed in a way. I know they went on a killer run, but you can't forget how bad they just got beat by Vanderbilt, how bad they lost to Auburn at home. Now that was way back on January 24th. Yes, I know. Yes. And they went on a hot run, and I love coaches, but I just think they're the flimsiest 1 seed. And I feel like, Houston, they're the ones that can't shoot. I will say that the toughest 3 seed could be Illinois, though. And seeing Illinois there is interesting because they're the number 7 on Ken Palm. So, from Ken Palm's perspective, you're right. That would be, but I just think that these are teams that I'm more in the fade market for. I think the West is the toughest bracket because I think Arizona is actually the best team with Duke's injuries now because Duke lost Foster. And I think they're going to get Najongba back, but I don't know that for sure. How healthy will he be? The problem with Arizona's side is they got all those conference winners there. You got Purdue there at the number 2. You got Gonzaga there at number 3. You want to talk about hard 3? Gonzaga, man. They're always tough. And then you have the 4 seed in Arkansas, who just lately has been killing people because of Darius Acuff. And then you have everybody's sleeper, Shawn, our Wisconsin Badgers. Everyone's sleeper that they're picking this year. I mean, can't be trendy with that one this year, can you?
No, and I've got the sweatshirt from COVID when it shut down, when they were going to be probably a 5 seed too, that they did that ESPN mock bracket when Wisconsin won the national championship. So I've got the Wisconsin national championship sweatshirt as a 5 seed
Nice.
from that COVID series. So maybe that repeats itself, even though it never really happened. Who knows? I had
That's
the West.
so funny. I forgot all about that mock bracket they did.
I had the West as my second toughest bracket, and a lot for that same reason. I think Arizona's the best team. I agree completely right now with Duke's injuries, but they're going to play some teams that are up tempo and some teams that can move in Wisconsin and Arkansas in that Sweet 16 game. And I'll tell you what, Utah State is not a pushover in that second round game either for them. The Mountain West only got the 1 team in, but they were actually a better conference this year than they were last year when they got 4 teams in. Utah State stumbled down the stretch a little bit, but they've played consistently all year, and they're a solid team, especially on the inside. They can give Arizona some fits in there. They're big enough to play with them. So I see where you're coming from. It's the hardest. Like I said, they were my second hardest, but I just looked at those 5 teams being able to come out of the South, and I said any one of those 5 could do it. And that's where I came on that hardest side of things.
Yeah, fair enough. Good. So we're close on that one. I will say that it's like when I say the South, I thought was the worst. It's not by far. I just think the other 3 are just under the West. And I will say the Duke bracket's kind of interesting. They got Kansas in there. They got a very fraudulent number 3 seed in Michigan State. Holy crap, Michigan State. They drive me nuts. I might even pick them to be upset the first round. UConn. What's funny is they were supposed to get the weakest 2 seed. Would you say that UConn is the weakest 2 seed? I wouldn't say that.
I'd say they got the worst loss on the resume, getting beat by Creighton and Marquette coming down the stretch. But
yeah,
I don't think they're the worst 2 seed. I think Purdue's the worst 2 seed. I think Purdue. Purdue, showed a lot of flaws. They went on that 17-game run early in the season, but they showed a lot of flaws in the second half of that Big Ten schedule as teams started to try and slow it down a little bit against them, and they struggled. Doing a little bit more of that banging, even being big inside, they struggled when teams started slowing it down against them.
I have Houston as the worst 2 seed. They just get to play at home after the St. Mary's game. And St. Mary's we got to beat A&M, but I think St. Mary's could get them. And that game's in Oklahoma, so it's not like it's that far from Houston and far for Houston fans to go and root them in. So that's interesting. Let's see what's on the docket here. Final 4. Well, did you fill out a bracket yet? I always fill one out early. I might switch a few things around. I'm probably not going to switch the Final 4 because we're talking about it, but I am different than I was last year.
Yeah, so I haven't done a full bracket, but like I said, I've got my teams I think can win it all, and those are the ones that I land on. And this year, it's all 1s and 2s. So in the East, I don't think Duke's going to get a challenge out of there, even with the injuries. I think they do have the easiest bracket, up to getting Connecticut. I don't think they're going to have any issues on the top half of that bracket at all. Arizona, like you said, I think it's the best team in here, so I've got them in there. And then I've got Iowa State, and then I'm going to take a shot in the South. And I'm going to stick Illinois on that side of the bracket. I think they've got enough pieces, even though they got beat by Bucky a couple times. They certainly have enough size on the inside and certainly can shoot the ball on the outside. They'll give Houston fits if those 2 meet, I think. And they certainly could match up with Florida, Vanderbilt coming off the top half of that bracket. So I'm going to give you Illinois, Duke, Arizona, and Iowa State.
It's almost like you looked at mine. I have one different than you. Weird. I have Duke, Illinois, for all the same reasons you said. I have Iowa State out of the other one, and I do have Wisconsin in this one. But I know I feel like a total asshole. I have Duke. I have Iowa State beating Wisconsin. I just think that their inside game's gonna be too big with Jefferson there, and I think that guys like Nolan Winter just get really soft sometimes. I like that Billy Dauskas guy though. He's pretty good. He'll get better next year too. But I think that, Duke beats Iowa State then and wins the championship. I hate freaking Duke, but, it just is what it is. Boozer's too damn good. His Caden Boozer's playing great too. And Mikal Brown's being awesome. They're just kind of a loaded team, even with the injuries. But I'm also going to have a bracket with Arizona winning. So this is pick your poison. Really, the thing is I don't think it's going to be all one seeds again. For a while I did, but you know what? These one seeds, Shawn, don't feel as strong as the one seeds were last year with Florida, Auburn, Duke, and was it Houston? Yeah. That's what it was.
So I think last year going in, I think Duke was probably, I think they were the number one overall last year, if I'm remembering correctly. I think they were kind of the one that was a little bit ahead of everybody, but I think the rest are about the same. You look at where Auburn was last year, and then Florida obviously won the whole thing. I think they might have been stronger last year than this year for sure, but we talk about this every year, and people say this, the number ones are always as good as last year. They're not as good as last year. They're number ones for a reason. And if you go back and you look at Ken Pom number one seeds, 5, 6, 7 years, let me flash through here real quick. And you look at their offensive defense rating almost every year, except for 2023 here, just going back 5 years, they're all tops on the offensive and defensive rating side of things. This year, all of the top one seeds are in the top 10. Sorry, let me track that. The top 10 offensive and defensive efficiencies this year, every one of those one seeds is in the top 10 on both offense and defense. So I think they're just as strong as they have been in past years, if not stronger.
That's true. Baylor, let's just go to 2021 after COVID. Baylor was a one seed. They won it all. Number 2022, Kansas was a one seed. They won it all. 2023 it was UConn, who was a 4 seed, but they're actually the number one efficiency team on Ken Pom when it was all said and done. Then obviously the number one overall seed, UConn won against Zach Edey and beat them, and then another number one seed in Florida won. So it's just been a run of a one seed since the COVID year. And if you want to go back to 2019, Virginia won it too as a one seed, and then 2018 Villanova won it as a one seed. 2017 North Carolina as a one seed, and then you have to go all the way back to 2016 where Nova as a 2 seed won it. And that is, and then the Badgers versus Duke were both 1 seeds too in 15. It's just crazy, man. Yeah, it seems like it's these these seeds that are doing it. You have to go way back to 2014 when it was UConn as a 7 seed. You got anything lower than a 2?
Yep. So it's a string, and it's a string for a reason. But like I said, all 4 number 1 seeds, top 10 offensive and defensive rating on Ken Pom this year. That's never happened in those years we just ran through. So they're good.
And you have Duke cutting down the nets?
I got Arizona.
Okay, that's right.
Yep.
And I'm gonna have Duke and Arizona. I just don't know. I just don't want to have them play each other. I'll tell you. Well, who are some of the ones you're fading? And of course, they might if they play each other. There's a lot of brackets that are going to win. It's going to be in the top. You can, if you're going to fill out your bracket like that, have fun with it. Because last year I had to, and Houston beat Duke, and I went from like second place to 40th. So that's the problem. But who are some of the? Well, let's go to fade teams and let's go to sleepers real quick. Anybody that you look at a fade?
Fading teams just from a winning perspective in brackets. I'm fading Purdue. I'm fading Connecticut. Fading Virginia, although they've shown a little bit of down the stretch here, and I'm fading Gonzaga. I know you mentioned you liked them as a 3 seed before, but the West Coast obviously has a couple good teams in it, but they've got a loss on the schedule to Portland. And you look at the other one big game that Gonzaga played, right? Who was that against? You remember that game? It was a 40-point shellacking at the hands of Michigan.
Michigan, yeah, it was November.
So yeah, it was November, but it's still a 40-point shellacking, and then you lose to a Portland team who's not even in the top 200, quadrant 4. So when you don't play anybody else, you're not going to give me a whole lot of options to look at. They beat Oklahoma in November as well, so they're on my fade list also. So Virginia, basically all the 3s except for Illinois and Purdue and Connecticut.
Yeah, Michigan State, you got to fade them. I'm fading them. I'm just waiting for the line to get bigger. I'll be fading Villanova. I'll be fading. They're injured. think I already bet Utah State. There you go. There's my free play. Utah State -1.5. Boom. Um, I'll be fading Tennessee at some point because Rick Barnes is Rick Barnes.
So
And
just stop on that one real quick. So as I started looking into that, Rick Barnes is Rick Barnes, right? You don't know who he's going to get in the play-in side of things, but look at that second round matchup with them and Virginia. If it ends up being that, I like Tennessee in that matchup.
well, Ament is a beast. Okay, he is a absolute beast. But dude, when he was missing, they were terrible. Just terrible.
Yeah.
I feel like and they lost bad to Vanderbilt when he wasn't playing. When he went injured, they lost to Alabama. Yeah, it's just they're very defensive oriented. Virginia is weird. They're playing really, really good basketball, but they have no like stars. They have no stars. It's just kind of like that put together Wisconsin-y type team that we used to play. Look, we'll see with Bo Ryan. Not quite as good as Bo Ryan's best teams with Showalter and all and Decker and all those guys, but still, they just feel like they're kind of well coached this year. I don't know what I would do that game. I think I would take Virginia, different from you. Oh, another fade team. There's teams that shouldn't be laying points, and that's like a Texas Tech. I'm going to fade Texas Tech because
Absolutely.
They play up and down to their opponents all the time.
So I think the line on that game when I looked at it was, what the heck was that? It was 8.5. Do I got that right? 7.5.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, 7.5 right now.
It was 8.5 when I took Akron,
and I made the game a pick 'em. So that was my biggest overall point spread on it, was a pick 'em and 7.5. So yeah, you're right on there too.
That's huge. Yeah, there's a few other ones that there's two plays I gave you, Utah State and Akron right there. So there you go. No, I'm with you. I think that's a big fade team. I also think even as good as Arkansas did in the tournament, they're a kind of team that plays up and down. And I'm not a big Calipari guy. When they're laying too many points, I might pick the other team. Now Hawaii, yeah, I probably have to get to Hawaii, but I'm going to wait on this one. I think Arkansas is going to get some back. But when Arkansas is a dog, that's when I kind of will like them, I think. So it's kind of like that situation, Shawn.
Yeah, it's funny. The world of numbers works the same, because I got Hawaii circled on my card as well as a potential play here waiting, with about a 5-point difference from where current spread is. So,
all right, 15.5 is what it's at. So I'm with you. I'll be on Hawaii at some point. If you have 5 points of movement, it ain't moving off your number, bro.
Sure is.
You could certainly wait on that one. I'm gonna fade A&M too. I don't know when. If I fade them against St. Mary's. So North Carolina is also injured. They lost Caleb Foster, right? Or not Foster, Smith. Yeah. So they're screwed kind of too. But I don't know if VCU is good enough though. I feel like they could beat VCU. I didn't cap that game yet. Let's go to sleepers. It's an interesting sleeper, and I'm not saying that I'm betting them because I kind of like South Florida too, but I think Louisville's been forgotten about. You have to remember that Mikel Brown hasn't played since February 28th when he got injured against Clemson. And, this team was running through some people early in the season, Indiana, Cincinnati, Kentucky, just beating the crap out of them. And yeah, when they stepped up, they got beat too. But, this Mikel Brown missed a ton of games this year, but I guess I don't know how healthy he is, but they could be kind of a sleeper in that quadrant there. So I have them circled as a potential sleeper.
Yeah, I think Louisville's got a chance to do some stuff. Again, you go back to the old historical Ken Pom rule, right? They got to be in the top, I think, 37 of offense and defense to have a shot. Well, guess what the lowest seed is that meets both those criteria? It's Louisville. They're 19th overall on offense and 25 on defense. So they could win the whole national championship. You never know, at least according to that old rule. We'll see.
It's a fun rule. And they're 19th and 25th. And if you start winning, Shawn, that their efficiency goes up, because that first year UConn played, they had to keep winning, and then they dropped into the correct area. It was kind of a weird situation with that.
Yep. Teams I like making a little bit of a run. Vanderbilt again, like I said, I think that team's shown that they can beat anybody, can hang with anybody, and they just beat Florida. So while it might be a revenge game for Florida, they're going to come back with that same philosophy they had: get up and down the floor, get inside, find an open two-pointer, and go. I mean, they probably had 10, 15-foot or 12-foot jumpers from the elbow or just inside, where they stopped and popped or made one pass, turned and shot, and Florida couldn't do anything with it, and they kept turning the ball over. So Vandy, I think, could make a run out of that grouping. I don't think anybody in the East is going to make a run. BYU, you never know what you're going to get. They've certainly struggled with some of the best teams in the Big 12, but I think they probably have the second best player outside of Boozer in college basketball. And if he gets hot with Debasanta going, you never know what they can do and who they can beat. They've already shown that they can beat great teams. They beat Iowa State at home, gave Arizona all they could handle on the road till the last minute. And I think they got a shot to make some noise, but again, they can also lose to anybody. They've shown that too. So they're kind of like our Badgers, right? So
yeah. Akron's going to be interesting when they face Bama. I'm not sure what's going to happen that game. Illinois, definitely, I'll be on them to go some distance here. I think they're going to treat the Houston matchup as a home game for Houston. So you're going to get like a Houston -3.5. So I'd probably take Illinois in that. So I'm kind of looking to back them. You know what sucks? I don't have like a really good Cinderella to go past the round of 32. I really don't. I don't, man. I guess if you really want one, it's UCF, because I think UCF could sneak past UConn. UConn, like you said, have bad losses, but is Central Florida considered a Cinderella now that they're in the Big 12? Not kind of like a Cal State Bakersfield, right? So it's kind of like, what are you going to do with that? There's really not a lot you can do with that.
No, and they played some good games, right? They almost beat Arizona at home. They did beat Texas Tech at home when Texas Tech had Dobbins in there. So they've shown that they can hang with some good teams too. So I don't hate that Central Florida play. They still got to get past UCLA first, and UCLA gave Purdue all they could handle, and everybody else in the Big Ten tournament too. And they played some tough games down the stretch that they look good at also. Just looking at 7-10s, 8-9s, double-digit seeds. There's really nobody in there where I jump off and say, hey, they're going to make it to the second weekend, but there probably never really is. There's probably, some 12 seeds that you look at sometimes and go, okay, maybe they could do it. McNeese has probably got the best resume, I think, of those 12 seeds that maybe could do something, but they also have the worst matchup with Vanderbilt right away. So
100%. What about any long shots, Shawn, before we end the show? Do you like anything kind of like sticking out right now from a number? There's a couple of I noticed.
You're just talking about straight up games?
You can do whatever you want. You could do straight up games. You could do to make the Sweet 16, to make the Final Four, to win it all, whatever you want. I mean, I already took like Iowa State to win it, to win. There's not a lot I can do with that now, So it's like I would pick them as long as what's interesting. I think if I'm right about the South being easy, Nebraska is an interesting 100-1 long shot. Their number sucks though. They have to have a better number than that to get to than 100-1 in my opinion. But that's interesting. Virginia to me is a little interesting too. I know you don't love them, but I think Michigan's so Jekyll and Hyde, and then Iowa State can be Jekyll and Hyde too. So I kind of would look at Virginia too.
Yeah. Don't hate any of those. I guess Vanderbilt would probably be one that I'd look at, one that we already talked about. If you want to take one out of the East, just to, take a shot at anything besides Louisville, I think St. John's is that team just because that defense is good enough to keep them in pretty much any game. That'd be another one to take a look at. If you want a long shot to try and do something, I think Tennessee State matches up decently with Iowa State. They're getting 24.5 and I made it 17. So if you want a free play on a long shot and see if you can find an alternate money line somewhere, usually they don't post them when the line's that high, but you never know. Some sites do. You might be able to find one out there. That'd be a fun one just to take a shot at.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. There's plenty on the board. I just be careful because, like we just mentioned, it's been one seeds winning this thing. So long shots is Final Four probably. Okay, that's the best thing you can probably do is bet the Final Four.
There is a bet out there that you can find, and I haven't looked at it or looked for the odds yet, but the bet to have all 4 1 seeds make the Final Four is usually decently plus money.
18 to 1, I think usually.
Yeah, might be a decent year to take a look at that one. It's only hit a couple times, but
it hit last year, so you're gonna do it 2 years in a row. Shit. Just parlay it, money line roll over it.
Yep.
It's I wouldn't be shocked if all 1 seeds win again. I'd be disappointed in my brackets, but because that's when my wife starts winning and my kids start winning is when that shit happens. So I don't like that, Shawn. Well, you're the man, Shawn, on a hell of a streak. What are you, 15-7 the last like 22 plays?
17-5. You got to give me a little more credit.
Oh my God. Okay. See, I had the 5 and the 7 messed up. Well, I also compete with you, so I don't like
Yeah, all good.
No, it's all good.
Well, let me give you a quick one more free play I had marked here before we cut out here. I like the under in Arkansas, Hawaii. Everybody's been looking at Arkansas running up and down the court in this SEC tournament. Hawaii plays at a fast tempo also, but they've also slowed it down against some of the faster teams in the Big West when they've played against them intentionally. So I think they'll try and do that against Arkansas, and I think that game will come in under 160.5.
Under 160.5. Nice. I like that very much. That's solid here. And like I said, Akron plus 7.5 for me. It was 8.5, but I'll have to score it at 7.5. And Utah State minus 1.5 for me as well. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Odds Breakers. We're going to be back this week with Matt Humans. We're going to be back this week with Tony George. We're going to talk tournaments all week. Shawn's going to be here too. Shawn's going to be throwing out some plays. Obviously, follow him on Twitter at @TheGreatKnoche. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and go get some winners.